Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Spinach Social Hour. My name is Stefan Kaplan, and it is an absolute pleasure to have everybody here this morning on this beautiful Saturday morning. And wow, what a morning we have planned for you. I hope you like the new intro to the show. Worked very hard on that this week, and it is going to be a standard for this show now. So once again, my name is Stefan Kaplan. Welcome to the Spinach Social Hour, a labor of love born out of care and concern for our photo community. So when this pandemic hit, I decided that I was going to reach out and I was going to help photographers around the world get their name and their work out there more, because let's face facts, we've all been hit tremendously hard by this pandemic. The photography community is no exception. So I am a social media and visual strategist and a live stream producer. I have worked with the likes of the Pulitzer Prizes, AARP, the Jackson Charitable Foundation, and I work with Sri Srinivasan and his DigiMentors group on many, many projects. One of the things that I've been doing lately too, though, is I've been working on producing a show with a visionary brand strategist named Emilio Pardo. And Emilio and I have been producing a show called Real Talk Live from the Barn, dealing with all things COVID related, from the economy to race relations. And a new show is in the works right now. Stay tuned online. Here's a quick look at the intro.
Hi there. Welcome to Real Talk Live at the Barn.
All right. So new episodes coming up. Just check online. So today, wow, Joe Conzo Jr. So I am really, really excited here. I want to just fix one thing. Sorry, my webcam seems to be going in and out of focus. There we go. Joe Conzo Jr. is a Bronx legend, and it is an honor to have him here today. I grew up working in the clubs, and I grew up working in the Roxy and many other places, and his work, well, it speaks for itself. So we're going to give him the build-up that he deserves, the way we do every photographer. So here we go. In the New York Times, Joe Conzo Jr. was heralded as the man who took hip-hop's baby pictures. The long and perilous journey of Joey's photographic images had finally captured the gaze of mainstream America. Born and raised in the Bronx, Joey acquired a passion for photography as a young boy attending the Agnes Russell School and continued his formal artistic education at the School of Visual Arts. Growing up, Joey saw both the volatile state of South Bronx community activism and the vanguard world of New York's Puerto Rican music scene. On any given day, he could find himself at the heels of his grandmother, the legendary activist Evelina Lopez Antonetti. On another day, he'd find himself going behind the scenes with his father, Joe Conzo Sr., and meeting such giants of Latin music as Tito Puente, Machito, Charlie Palmieri, Johnny Pacheco, and Ray Barretto. Coming of age as a man and as a photographer in the mid-'70s during an unprecedented chapter of New York City urban decay, his talents found their niche within the socio-cultural movement known as hip-hop. There, at its earliest stage, was Joey, aka Joey Kane, embracing his role as official photographer in a still unfolding movement. Ladies and gentlemen, wow, am I psyched. Here we go. Oh! How's it going, baby?
That buildup was just very humbling.
Joe, I have to tell you, this is bringing me back. I'm going to have trouble not going down the path of memory lane here, because having you on, I'm going to feel like I'm back in the Roxy on Friday nights with all these incredible people.
Listen, that was a good time back then. That was a phenomenal time back then. You know, it was an innocent time. It was about going out, having fun, and things of that nature. So, yeah, let's go down memory lane.
It was my heart for many years. And Edwin's here, Edwin Pagan.
Edwin.
Edwin, part of Seis del Sur, which is
Yes.
a collective of incredible photographers, from Joe to Edwin to David Gonzalez to Angel Franco to Ricky Flores, and oh my
Francisco
Lord.
Reyes,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Yeah.
thank you. A lot of names to remember here in the hip hop scene and in the Bronx scene and everything else. But Joe, thank you for being here. And why don't we start off? You know, the Spin It Social Hour is all about storytelling and great visuals. So why don't we start, first of all, for Peter Da Silva from San Francisco at 7 o'clock in the morning.
He's
in the car. He's in the car listening.
There you go.
He just drove to Oregon to meet his son, and now he's driving in the car listening to it. What dedicated fans.
Awesome.
But, you know, the Spin It Social Hour is all about great visuals and storytelling, and I bring you guys on to get your name out there and your work out there. So let's start off. Rick Friedman in the house. Let's start off by tell us, Joe. I mean, tell us how you. I told some of it, but tell us how you got started. Tell us how you got the passion for photography and what the hip hop scene meant to you very early on.
You know, photography came to me at a very early age. I got to give credit when credit's due. My stepfather, Michael Caine, was an amateur family photographer who I, credit with giving me that photo bug, so to speak. Right. And he gave me my first, probably Kodak Instamatic 124 camera to take pictures. And it just grew into a love and passion where, in junior high school, I became the junior high school photographer, the yearbook photographer, mm-hmm. and it just gradually grew into, becoming a high school photographer, and not knowing that some of the guys that I went to school with would become pillars, the bricklayers of this foundation, this cultural phenomenon called hip hop.
Right.
And, to veer off. Yeah, I tell kids when I show them that picture I invented the selfie and shit. So, like when I wasn't hanging out with the guys that I went to school with, who became pillars of the hip hop community, the culture. Mm-hmm. My dad, Joe Conzo Jr., was a personal confidant of Tito Puente, the king of Latin music.
Wow.
And hanging out with my dad, I got to shoot, I mean, you named it, Eddie and Charlie Palmieri, Celia Cruz, Ray Barretto, Hector Lavoe, you name it.
Wow.
And then when I wasn't hanging out with my dad, my grandmother was a pioneering community activist who literally gave her life to the people of the South Bronx and was out in the streets demonstrating against movies like Fort Apache, the Bronx, and starting bilingual education in public schools and the summer lunch program. And so, I just had my surroundings at growing up was just full of moments and history, not knowing that 30, 40 years later that I'd be traveling the world all over, showing my images.
Right. Well, the Bronx is so, one of the things that bothered me so much as a kid growing up, and I'm from Greenwich Village, but I used to go up to the Bronx all the time, and up in the days to see my friends, all the way up to Hunts Point and many other places up there. And it always bothered me tremendously that people were so, not everybody, but a lot of people we know, there was this looming cloud all the time about, what was going on, between the fires, between this, between that. And there was so much struggle, and there was so much life, though, and so much beauty within the people trying to maintain their life and everything else. Tell us about that, Joe.
But I mean, listen, yes, urban decay was all around us. The Bronx was burning. I say the Bronx was burnt. But you have to put yourself in my situation and other kids growing up at that time. We knew nothing more than what we had in our surroundings.
Exactly.
So as a kid, you can't miss anything you never had. For a brief period in my life, I lived in Chevy Chase, Maryland, private house, white picket fence, private school, this, that, and the other one. My mother was married in her second marriage, but that was just for a short moment. And the point I'm trying to get at is that, these abandoned buildings, these burnt out buildings, these cars, abandoned cars, they became our playground.
Right.
So we made the best of it.
Right.
There was music in the streets. On every street corners, you had people playing congas and guidos. And so there was so much life and vibrancy going on.
Right.
Where the adults at that time, my mother, my grandmother, and this, that, and the other, were fighting the establishment for better educations, better representations, and this, that, and the other. And, being at a young age, it really didn't set in until I got older.
Right.
But,
well,
I turned out pretty well.
You've done.
You know what I mean?
You've done amazing things. So this photo grabbed me, man. When I tore through your Facebook page, man.
Yeah, I can see you did. So that was an assignment I had. I did a year at SVA, School of Visual Arts.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and that was one of the assignments I had, and it's just so phenomenal. You set up the tripod, and you just do these little selfies, as we call them today.
But what I love most is you have American Photography magazine in your hands.
Yeah.
So that's the deal right there. It captured you. You were involved with it. And, the arts are such a gift, especially to so many in inner city communities, everybody. But
it's really important.
It's
really
so
important.
I mean, look at, I'm always amazed, aren't you? Isn't it just such a thrill and such a beautiful thing that so much came out of the Bronx and Harlem and other places with so much with music and the arts and everything else and so much culture. As I say, you can't just, well, I'm not going to get into politics.
Go ahead.
It bothers the hell out of me that people think they can like food, they can like culture, they can like this, but they don't have to, get along so well with the people, right? No, that's not the way it works, people. That's not the way it works.
But arts played a big role in education back then because of our urban decay going on.
Right.
And my grandmother, involved in the public school administration, at that time, she fought for arts. And, I remember, doing a walkout during high school because of the cuts in the arts programs.
Okay.
But, I was fortunate enough to have in junior high school and in high school photography classes that were taught. Right. And even at community organizations like my grandmother's organization, United Bronx Parents, she had Francisco Reyes, who's part of the socio-cultural collective, teach photography to the kids. And it gave us an outlet. It gave us something to do after school. You know what I mean? She kept schools open past the hours so we could not be in the streets, but be in schools learning, different art. I had a pottery class.
Right.
I learned how to do pottery on a kiln and, all kinds of things. So the arts played a huge, huge role in my upbringing. And it's so important today.
And absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much for elaborating on that. We're going to go into a shout out here, and then we're going to go into some shout outs for people. We're going to rewind a little on some of the comments. But first, I'm going to give a big shout out to learning and education and the beauty of what the Bronx Documentary Center does in the Bronx.
Oh, the BDC, yes.
The BDC, the Bronx Documentary Center in the Bronx. I'm going to take this off the screen for 1 second. I'm going to do one other thing because I want to do this for the Bronx Documentary Center rather than just have a ticker. We're going to actually go straight to their Instagram page and we're going to highlight it for them because they're that important to highlight. Follow them, folks, at Bronx Documentary Center right here on Instagram. Get to know them. Michael Camber, the founder of the Bronx Documentary Center, a legend in photojournalism, traveled around the world and was in the middle of conflict zones during the wars.
Combat photographer.
Combat photographer extraordinaire, unbelievable. Has 9 lives, thank God. Love Michael. His work is amazing. But please follow the Bronx Documentary Center. They shared this post. We also want to encourage everybody to share. We thank them for sharing the any posts on the Spin It Social Hour, and I hope to put together a big group thing with them one day. I'm going to contact them. I hope they hear this. I'd love to speak to them about having a panel thing on here. But let me take this off now. Let me get back to Joe here. But let's give some shout outs here. Jonathan, let's rewind real quick and make sure everybody knows we're paying attention to them. Who's here today, Jonathan? Roll them. Let's see who we got. We got Bimal Nepal from Cambridge. Bimal, good morning. We have Carol Dietz, formerly of the New York Times. Hello, Carol. Marge Kleinman. Unbelievable Stoop stories of former guest. Bob Veritoni, a future guest. Good morning, Bob. Edwin's in the house again. Let's see who else we got. Nitzan, I just met Nitzan this week. Hello, Nitzan. Wonderful to be here. I met her through my friend Barry Richards, who has a sailboat and sails around Manhattan. Peter De Silva, as we said, from San Francisco, but going from Oregon to San Francisco. Rick Friedman from Boston in the house. Anybody else? Let's see. Wow. Holly Kaufman-Soul. Holly was a former guest with her husband from Rhode Island. Ali Hernandez, formerly an old friend of mine from the Roxy days. And
wow.
And of Time Magazine now. Stefan Falke, phenomenal former guest. Sue Darby is here. Joe, they're turning out for you, man. Emilio Pardo, the sponsor of my show and my very dear friend. Mark Lee from Durham. Mark is amazing. Podcaster extraordinaire.
North Kakalaki in the house.
Oh, my God. Durham, North Carolina in the house. Okay. All right. So, Center for Documentary Studies at Duke University. Marge Kleinman, great spot. If I could go back to school, I'd head right there. Okay. So we got all this going on. Let's put your work back up on the screen. Got to give shout outs because I realize, everybody's turning out for this show and we got to acknowledge them.
Yes. And thank you for everybody for getting up on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Yes.
Hey, coffee, tea, and the Spin It Social Hour, baby, and Joe Conzo Jr. So I saw this photo, and I never violate copyright, so I did a whole snapshot of Facebook. I brought it on. I love this pensive photo. Is this outside the Met?
Yes, outside the Met, and that was taken by my mentor, Francisco Reyes, who's also part of the Space Sul.
Yeah.
And he took my photography and smoothed the edges out and helped me develop my eye as a teacher at United Bronx Parents back in the 80s. So
see, that's great that you're telling that because one of my students from FIT, I'm an adjunct professor at FIT teaching the fundamentals of social media. And I'm teaching again this semester coming up. And Joshua Vilas was on just now. And Joshua is a great student of mine. I loved having him in my class. Very good photographer already. So Joshua, thank you for joining us, Joshua. Anyway, I love this photo of you, man. It's just such that perfect pensive moment. You're so relaxed.
Thinking of a master plan.
Thinking of the master plan. What was the plan, Joe, right there, man?
Listen, I must have been about 16, 17 years old there. We're just roaming the city with our cameras and, he just captured a moment that, I'm grateful for.
Right.
This photo here is
man, tell us about the scratch going on here.
When hip hop went downtown, hip hop started up here in the Bronx, in little high school gymnasiums and playgrounds and PALs, and Edwin can attest to that because he was in the crowds at the Hoe Avenue Boys Club and thing. But this is at Club in the Grills downtown. Okay. And Michael Hallman, Cool Lady Blue, actually had 1 or 2 nights there back in the day. Yeah. And this is Charlie Chase. Credited as being one of the first, if the first, Puerto Rican DJ of the hip hop culture. Just showing off his skills.
Yeah, man, check it out, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to go nuts watching these guys at Roxy, man. You know, Spin and Jazzy J and Bam and everybody else who would turn out every Friday night. I was in heaven every Friday night, man. If only I had my camera in my hands back then.
Well, listen, in hindsight, I would have taken a lot more pictures of different things, but I'm grateful for my archives of over 10,000 images from back in the day. So,
I know we bumped into each other a lot back then, man. We just didn't know each other, you know?
Listen, I bet $20 we did
Yep.
pass each other,
Yep.
probably smoked a joint together or something
But,
back then.
But we're going but we're going to bring your dad on very soon just to let him know.
Oh, wow.
I see him in the background.
Okay.
But you know, first I want to mention though, before we bring Dad on, and no disrespect to making him in the hold in the waiting room, but
he can stay in the holding pattern.
But one of the things that I wanted to mention was that, you know, so there's this thing that circulates amongst the hip hop scene that the New York Times did this great article on you once. It was written by David Gonzalez, of course, who's also part of Seis del Sur, and a longtime New York Times reporter and photographer, and the founder of the co-founder of the legendary Lens blog. Always have to throw that in, and a colleague and friend of mine. So David, the headline writer, wrote this headline for the story that sticks to this day as "You were the man who took the baby images or the baby photos of hip hop."
Yeah, I kind of like it's stuck with me since that article came out. And real quickly, story about David.
Oh, let's have a story about David.
When David reached out to me via email at the time, you know, I was like, wow, the New York Times wants to do an article on me. But like, I know this name. Like, who is this David Gonzalez? You know, I've heard this name before around the dinner table with my grandmother and, you know, my mother and things of that nature. And I go down to the New York Times and I meet David, and I think he buys me a sandwich and he's talking about, and, you know, it just clicked that, you know, he knew my family and we didn't actually know each other, but it just clicked how he knew my family. And, you know, when that article came out, you know, he interviewed my dad and Johann Kugelberg, who I did the book with, Born in the Bronx. And it's just amazing how that article and that moniker, the man who took hip hop's baby pictures, has stuck with me.
Listen, man, the New York Times is the New York Times, and there's a reason for that. I tell people, having grown up, you know, working there, I mean, I worked there for 20 years as a photo editor. I was 15 of which as a supervising photo editor in the wire service. But, you know, you could tell all these stories, you know, Joe, but you should know me by now, baby. David Gonzalez, everybody. Say good morning, David.
Hey, what's up, Joey? You see what's after my name?
Stop fronting.
You know, I had to put you guys.
You got that story wrong, man. It's your own life, and you got it wrong.
I got it wrong, David. I don't.
Let's face it. Both you and I know about chemo brain, so I'll just describe that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Now, the way it happened was.
Go ahead.
I come back to New York, right? After 4 years of, you know, adventures in tropical climes with tropical gangsters and whatnot. Get back to town, you know, got some time on my hands every now and then. I go online, see what's up. And I saw some pictures. And I was like, oh, shit, I know this neighborhood. You know, pictures from like Charlotte Street, what have you, back in the quote unquote good old days or bad old days, whichever way you look at it. Yeah. You know, streets that I knew, buildings that I knew that are long gone. And, you know, stuff down like near Prospect, because my uncle lived on Prospect on 156. And, you know, your grandmother was 1 block north of there. So I was in that neighborhood a lot as a kid. I knew it, you know, and I was born like, you know, 3 blocks away from that. Not too far from where, you know, Ricky lived.
Right.
You know, as you know, it's the known Rican universe, that area. It's a trip because, like, you know, so many amazing creative people came out of that little part of the world. you know, like in photography, Carlos Ortiz. You know, Carlos,
Oh,
you were looking at
Carlos
him.
is the unsung hero.
He really is. He has an
yeah,
amazing archive.
yeah,
The guy had the goods,
yeah.
you know. And you know, there's all these other folks that are out there. But what happened was, I'm looking at these pictures. I'm like, shit. Let me just send a note out, you know, off his website. I went to his website, sent out a note, and the first response was, "Is this the David Gonzalez that we're always talking about at my dinner table?" Shit.
So I got it partly right.
Yeah, you did. You were there at least. So that's okay. Don't worry. I know you were there. That much I do know. And so then it turned out that, you know, his aunt is Elba Cabrera. And Elba
La
Cabrera
madrina.
is truly a legendary individual. What's even more amazing is there were three of her, in the sense that you have Elba, her other sister who was the librarian, se me olvidó el nombre ahora.
Lillian Lopez. She was the
Lillian
first
Lopez,
Puerto
and
Rican.
then Evelina
Yeah.
Antonetti, who you see on screen.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I know y'all. I mean, you know, I knew his grandmother reputation. I knew some of the people who worked at UBT, like Butch, remember?
Butch
In the early
Kelly.
90s, I
Yeah.
interviewed Butch about all this violence that was happening with young people in town. And Butch, you know, Butch knew how to address that situation.
Yeah.
You know,
May he rest in peace.
indeed, indeed. You know, and it was like, there's like this whole generation that was out there. You know, Joey was out there taking pictures. I started taking pictures when I was like 19 when I was in college, but I would come back to New York all the time and shoot like crazy. And, you know, what happened was, when I came back to New York from college, I was looking for a job, and I got it through the Association of Hispanic Arts newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Elba had worked. And I met her when I was like fresh out of college. And, you know, she knew that as a Puerto Rican working class kid who just got a degree from Yale, telling your folks you want to be a photographer when they sent you off thinking you're going to be a doctor was rough. They didn't want to deal with that.
Right.
And Elba was among those people who encouraged me, who embraced me, and always to this day still offers encouragement. She is known as La Madrina, the godmother. And there is at least a generation of Puerto Rican, mostly Neo-Rican artists that really owe her a debt that can never be repaid. So that's where he comes from. And then, you know, you got UBP. I mean, you know, UBP was legendary. I mean, nobody messed around with his grandmother. I mean, they called her the Hell Lady of the South Bronx, and that's really not fair to her because she was a very loving individual. She just didn't put up with bullshit.
Yeah.
You know? And so, you know, somebody gets their feelings hurt. So, she's the Hell Lady. No. She's just calling it as it is, you know. Yep. Too bad for your feelings. But I mean, you know, let's face it, anybody who can get Herman Badillo and Ramon Velez in the same freaking office and give them a dressing down, but it stays within those four walls.
That's right.
In that era, when like people who went against Ramon Velez would like get mysterious injuries and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, that was fearless, absolutely fearless.
Yeah.
And so I was like, shit, they never told me about you, Papi. But they soon enough did.
Well, you know what?
Thank you, David.
I'm really appreciative for David coming on here this morning. You know, I hounded him earlier this week, and I was like, "Yo, I don't give. He knows me by now. I don't give up." So, whoa, I'm getting a little mute here. Somebody has something.
You're fine. You're fine,
Okay.
Steph.
All right. So, you know, I don't give up. I always make sure I track everybody down because I want this show to be about great storytelling. I knew, you know, David's one of the best storytellers out there. So I wanted to bring him on and make sure he contributes a little to this history and everything. But, you know, David, you know, I came to a great exhibit that you and Edwin had up in Spanish Harlem was it last year or 2 years already? Man,
you know, you could have told me it was yesterday. It would feel like a decade.
I know. I have COVID fog right now. I can't remember.
It was summer of 2019. Then we had a show there like in October of 2019.
Right.
We had our show in June.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, you know, you and Edwin gave everybody there such a history and such a schooling on on so much about the Bronx back in those days and other communities as well. And we were talking earlier about the fact that so many people are always talking about one thing, in the history of the Bronx. Yeah, we know about that. But we also know, right, exactly. It's the same reason you always say you never take photos of kids in fire hydrants, right?
I don't.
I know you by now, and I know the history because, we don't need those photos. We know that kids play in fire hydrants, So, but these are the
We
photos.
also know that we live in poor communities, but we are not impoverished of spirit.
Thank you.
No, not at all.
Which is being shown once again during COVID, by the way.
Right.
Some of you who saw that piece I did with Gabriella Bakshar on people living in NYCHA housing.
Right.
And how people in NYCHA were pretty much left to their own devices.
Right.
They are the most vulnerable of vulnerable. They are essential, quote unquote, workers. Essential workers reminds me of what this guy said about, Chris Rock said about minimum wage.
Yeah.
If we could pay you less, we would, but it's illegal.
Right.
Essential workers are like, yeah, you're really essential, but you're not essential enough for me to pay you a decent wage to risk your life delivering somebody's food.
Right. You know what also always got me?
But that's the communities that we are from.
Yeah.
And if I could add something,
yeah, please.
We are much more than our pathology. And the people who sit in judgment and decide what constitutes quote unquote serious photojournalism,
right.
quote unquote serious journalism.
Right.
All too often, let's face it, man, I've been in this business almost 40 years. Yeah, I'm 63.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All too often, that's just an excuse to put up some, sensationalistic, fucked up images of melanated people looking all broke down.
Yeah.
I can't put too fine a point on it. You look at Bruce Davidson, who's celebrated for East 100th Street. I'm like, later for that, I'd rather look at Frank Espada, shot the same goddamn neighborhood. Tony Vasquez shot the same goddamn neighborhood. Evelyn Collazo shot the same goddamn neighborhood, etc. Edwin Pagan. I could reel off the names of everybody who I know who shot Spanish Harlem with a fuckload more feeling than Bruce Davidson did.
Yeah. No, hey, listen, man.
Look for anybody out there. You want to see the real East Harlem?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the images of Frank Espada. You can look it up in the Lens blog because I wrote about him.
Right. No, yeah. Listen.
And that's what Joe's images continue to be. Well, even in our poverty. Right. They're giving out government cheese in some of these pictures. That shit doesn't happen on the other side of Park Avenue. You know what I mean?
It always amazes me. You show photos of people, working and cleaning up their communities and stuff, and people wow, what they had to do. Well, what do you expect them to do? Of course, they're going to clean up their communities. It's there.
Tell them to go fuck themselves. We're broke.
True. But the photo
knows it.
Thank God for great people like you guys who have done such great documentary work. This photo I love because fess up, I was a roller disco skater. I used to perform at the Roxy. I used to wear the jazz pants and blah blah blah.
Oh, I gotta search my archives to see.
You got it. You got it. Either him or Holman got it.
I opened up a can of worms there. But, this photo here was what so many things in the 70s and 80s were about, block parties and great gatherings and stuff. I love this photo, Joe. I love it.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you.
We're going to go through a bunch of stuff here. And we have some other great photos of Joe from the history here.
Is that your bathroom, Joe?
Yeah, that is my dark room that myself and Francisco Reyes, part of the Chase, we built in my mother gave me the blessing to build a dark room in our second bathroom. We lived in the Michelangelo project.
Oh my God, qué fancy.
Across the street.
Segundo baño, coño, nene.
Yeah.
Eso es
across the street from Lincoln Hospital. And
I love it.
My little bachelor.
Let's see if your dad's still around. Let's see here. Mr.
I'm here.
Yo, where you calling from, Papa Conzo?
I didn't have a chance to do a tech check with everybody today.
Move the camera down, Dad.
Let's try to get Dad to move the camera down a little.
No,
Dad?
they're asking me where. Hello, I'm here.
Okay,
I know you're rising from the floor.
Can you lower? Can you lower your screen a little, sir?
He looks like Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now.
Well,
There
there
you
you
go. All right.
Yo, what's
All
up,
right.
Papa Conzo?
Hello.
go.
Hello. Welcome. How are you, sir?
Good, good, good. I have a class at 11 o'clock, a lecture series with the college.
Well, we're not going to keep you very long. I wanted to simply ask you. I wanted to ask you a really important question here. What
What do you want to ask me?
what does all your son's great work mean to you and the community and everything? Now, all of this great archival work that he's done, documenting documenting the community and documenting the people.
I'm gonna volunteer in the morning every day.
I am so proud of him. I mean, I'm glad he was my tail with Latin music. Nobody has been able to capture the music and everything that happened in the community. And like David said, there's so many photographers out there, but we are a forgotten generation as Latins. You know, thank God Joe Conzo Jr. has gone all over the world to show our music. A perfect example, just to tell you, a guy like Ken Burns, they'll give him millions of dollars and he gets it wrong.
Huh.
I mean, when he did the thing on jazz, he didn't know what he was talking about. Never interviewed me, Joey, David Gonzalez, never did none of that. And yet he
Wow.
left the whole era of Latin jazz out. Latin
Well,
jazz.
I put together some of your son's photos here on some of the greats, and we're going to show a few.
They just buried him yesterday.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, I wanted to honor him by putting this. I wanted to honor him. You have a great background, but you got a lot going on, so I'm trying to speak over the phone and other things just for a second. But tell us about him, please, for a minute.
About this gentleman,
Yes.
Candido Camarero. He
Yep, I
died
know.
last week. He was 99 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he played with everybody from Dizzy Gillespie, Tony Bennett, Peggy Lee. He was well known. Tito Puente, of course. He was a hell of a showman. And what can I tell you? One of the greatest conga players in the world.
God bless him and God rest his soul. 99 years old. Just
Yes,
the other
sir.
day too. Wow. Yeah. No, I know. David and I were talking about it, but also, I was going to put the king up here, right?
That's the king of Latin music. He was like Joey's uncle, and Joey captured a lot of shots on him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
David Gonzalez did a whole article in the New York Times on Tito, myself, how I try to keep the legacy going of Tito Puente. This man took this music all over the world.
He sure did.
Yet Ken Burns couldn't mention him one time.
Wow. Is that true? He didn't mention him one time?
That's true. That's
Wow.
true.
Wow. That's great.
And for that matter, the museum in Harlem and Washington D.C. they have a whole exhibit on Joey and everything. What's the name of that museum in Harlem? I mean, in Washington D.C. Joey.
Oh, the African American Museum
Yeah.
at the Smithsonian.
Yeah. Do you believe they have one picture of Mongo Santa Maria? They didn't mention Chano. I'll rattle names off. Not even Tito. Tito Puente's mother was black. And I told the curator, I said, you people are another Ken Burns. You don't know your history. And that's the biggest problem.
Well,
They do it because they said they didn't have enough money. They didn't have enough space. You make the space and you find the money.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's go back a few comments to Mark Lee's comment about something that was also missed about jazz. Can we scroll back a little to Mark Lee's comment? He said Ken Burns also left out the blues elements out of jazz and a lot of the root sounds that came from it. So, and
That-
roll to the next, roll to a couple of the next comments, please, for a second. In life, especially later, we realize some of the so-called experts are indeed blowing hot air. And most importantly, we look back at ourselves and say, wow, I cannot believe I did what I did. And in the end, we feel connected to ourselves and others in a much better way. And the naysayers become increasingly irrelevant over time. Well said, Edward. And we have a couple of more. Cyrus from Maryland says, Cyrus Bamji, photography and music has the power to bring back our sense of community and love. We just need, you're going too fast for me here. I can't read that fast. We just need to spread that love and spirit beyond the walls we live behind, especially today. Well said, Cyrus. So one of the things I want to do here is I want to talk about this photo for a second, Joe and Joe Jr. Look at this photo with all these legends.
Let me give you a quick story about this photo.
Okay.
So,
you gotta go to my class.
Okay, Mr. Conzo Sr.
Thank you, Dad.
All right.
Fellas,
I'm gonna head out too. I gotta make some breakfast and walk.
All right, David. Thanks for being here, bro.
David.
Okay, man. Love you, Joey. Be
All
good.
right, take care, guys. Thank you for being here. All right.
So
David, hold on.
here.
David Gonzalez from the New York Times, everybody. And Joe Conzo Sr. Go ahead, Joe. Take it away.
This photo here was an occasion that a New York publication, and I won't name them, but it wasn't the Times and it wasn't the Daily News.
Mm-hmm.
So you figure out who they were. I got invited by Joe Bataan, who's sitting in the middle there with the red hat, to come take pictures. And they were trying to recreate that famous jazz picture, A Great Day in Harlem.
Yeah.
So this photo was A Great Day in Salsa.
Wow.
So I was invited. I know 90% of the musicians there through my dad because I grew up, taking pictures of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to go through the right channels and say, listen, I'm coming. No, you're not allowed. No, you're not allowed. I showed up anyway, took some candid shots, this, that, and the other. And what blew me away was that the photographer that they hired was a young woman, Caucasian, who had no idea who these gentlemen were,
right,
and actually told them to say on three, arroz con pollo, and take the picture. So, with that being said, we spent the day there, took some nice candid shots. A friend of mine who had a blog at the time, Raquel Cepeda, shout out to her, did a blog and mentioned about this photograph and everything like that. The next day, I got legal letters from the newspaper suing me.
Wow, really?
For showing up, yeah. So I literally had to defend myself and turn in all my photographs. I wouldn't give the rights up because, listen, I'm not giving you the rights.
Right.
I will promise you that I will not publish these photos for the next 5 years.
Right.
And here are the copies of the photos.
Right.
So, it ran, but they actually tried to sue me. So again, I won't mention the newspaper. It wasn't the Times and it wasn't the Daily News. So you figure it out.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
But again, here is a phenomenal moment with these great musicians. Wouldn't you want to have a photographer who knows them photograph them, or just be a part of the scene?
It goes to the saying of what David and what your dad was just saying, that they'd rather have these other people do certain things, but when you have somebody who's actually part of the community,
and not to take away from the photographer that took the original photograph, okay? But when you try and recreate a picture like A Great Day in Harlem, and that was the photographer's escaping my brain right now.
Moment. Yeah, it's a lot.
And they did it with hip hop, and they used him too. It was just phenomenal. But it just I don't know. But yeah, I was almost sued. Well, I was sued by publication.
Now I remember Art Kane.
Yes,
Art Kane.
Yes.
Google, baby, Google.
Google. Yes.
But no, it's the history that you've covered in so many ways with so many people. But let's talk about hip hop too, and let's talk about. I'm so glad we could bring your dad on. That was so great. Man,
Yeah, that was nice.
He's got a busy household going on back there, man.
What can I tell you? He actually teaches on Saturdays for hostos.
I can't believe David said he looks like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now.
Well, listen, they go way back anyway.
So. No, I'm joking that he could only he only had his head in the picture, so he looked like Marlon Brando.
Listen, all of this computer stuff is just new to my dad.
Bob said it. Sorry, here he said like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. Sorry, David.
My dad is new to all of this computer stuff, so
he's doing fine. What class is he taking, Joe?
He teaches history on Latin music at Hostos Community College.
Oh wow!
It's been going on now for about 6 years. So every Saturday.
Shout out to your dad. How old is your dad that he's teaching? And he's
my dad is 77 years old. A young 77 years old. Been married 6 times. He's in competition with Elizabeth Taylor and all those people. And,
wow, he is giving Liz a run for her money there, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
But let's speak hip hop history here. And if we're going to talk hip hop history, we're going to bring on. Oh, look who's here.
The grandest of them all that your mama would fall for.
Grandmaster Kaz. In the house. How are you?
I'm well. What's up, fellas?
Nothing. Thank you so much for being here, man. I can't tell you how much it means to me. I'm sure I bumped into you way back in the days, between the Bronx and Roxy and everything else. But man, it's an honor to have you here. Joe, why don't you tell us, something quick about Kaz, and then let Kaz tell us some more.
What can I say about Kaz that hasn't been said before? I mean, he is one of the most prolific MCs, writer the world has seen. I mean, this gentleman here literally wrote 2/3 of Rapper's Delight and never got credit for it. And you have MCs today like LL Cool J and Jay-Z speak about growing up listening to Grandmaster Kaz. And I was fortunate enough to, I didn't go to school with him. I went to school with his 2 other bandmates, Tony Tone and Easy A.D. And Kaz, Kaz wrote rhymes off of Gilbert O'Sullivan tempos. I mean, how fucking cool is that? You know what I mean? He is known as the captain of the 4. And, he is, when you look up the word MC, his picture comes up.
Hey, Kaz, so tell me, man, what is it, it's a simple question for many people, but, it means so much. Look at the work that Joe's done, creating this historical archive of imagery of you guys when, you were thriving in the scene and bringing the scene and the music to life for everybody around the world. I mean, what did Joe bring to it that other people couldn't?
I'm just kidding. That's my brother, Joe.
Kaz, you're breaking up a bit. You're breaking up a bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Is that any better?
Much better, much better.
Yeah, Joe put a face to the names, because in the early days of hip hop, even the flyers didn't have photographs. The flyers just had names. So the names became popular, but people didn't know the face. They had no images. Okay, we were one of the first groups because of Joe to have our images put on flyers. And then we used to throw out some of the pictures that Joe would take of us, just during the week or at events, and we would throw those out to the audience, and those became like keepsakes for hip hop. These are some of the first images. Some people still have our pictures and posters hanging up in their houses. to this day.
Right.
So the fact that we were one of the first groups that could put images behind our voices and our names gave us that extra level of notoriety.
Right. No, I mean, you know, the photos stand the test of time, and you know, I was in that scene, like I said, at the Roxy on Friday nights, and I have to tell you, every club you walked into back in the days when hip hop was thriving and coming about, and everybody was learning more and more about it, it was, and Joe, I'm going to use the pun here, not because of Electric Boogaloo, please, but I'm just going to say it was electric.
Poppin'.
It was electric. I mean, to watch the Rocksteady crew and watch Bam and watch Jazzy J and watch, you know, Cool DJ Red Alert and Kaz and the Cold Crush Brothers and you go on and on, Grandmaster, you know, sorry,
Theodore and Flash.
And right, Flash and Melly Mel and Cool Herc. I mean, you know, you talk about all these people. My God, I feel I was in the middle. I was in the middle of greatness, man. You know,
Definitely.
so it was like hip hop royalty every week, man. And it's such a, in retrospect, to have been a part of this. Kaz, what was it about? I mean, when the hip hop scene hit, describe it a little for us, man.
I mean, you got to understand that hip hop was so natural for us. It's not like there was like something came from outer space or something like that, and we just adopted it. It was so natural. Music comes from our homes,
right?
You know, we grew up with music in our homes,
right?
But we lost the ability to create music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because of the, you know, the programs, you know, the conditions that existed in New York City during the late 60s and early 70s, we were devoid of music programs. So to quote Lord Jamar, we took the only thing in our house that made music and turned it into an instrument. And that was our turntables.
Right. Well, I just fixed your name on the screen because we can't have just Kaz up there. We had.
Oh, okay. I see the Grandmaster. I appreciate it.
I'm giving you your props where they're due, man.
I appreciate it.
So go ahead, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the climate kind of bred the culture.
Right.
You know, what was going on in the city kind of led to hip hop. It was our only alternative. You either went left or you went right.
Right.
For us, hip hop was right.
Right.
You know what I mean? The streets were left.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, we didn't get involved into the mayhem and to the negative aspects.
Right.
We gravitated towards something that was cool.
Right.
It was musical and it brought us together.
Well, you know, that's the thing, man. I tell you, man, it was so amazing when, like, the Rocksteady crew and Legs and Normski and I go on and on, Frosty, everybody would walk in. They just took over the club, man. And so did you guys in many ways. And that was the thing. The presence was so strong. But the thing that I love the most, Joe, and you guys I know will back me up on this, was that it was like this beautiful thing to watch everybody, just the synergy, the electricity between the music and the dancing and the culture and everything. It was magical, man. It was magical.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, prior to that, disco was the scene.
Right.
Disco was the music. Disco was the movement.
Right.
But for our generation, disco was played.
Right.
And we had to create our own version of disco without the disco rules.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sure, we want to dance, but we don't want to dance like that.
I hear you, man.
Sure, we want to get dressed up to go, but we don't want to dress like that.
Right. Well, Kaz, I got to tell you, you know, it's funny because I worked at Studio 54 for 2 summers. And and I worked there as a busboy. Nothing glamorous, but I worked there and I was part of the scene. And I can relate to what you just said totally, between the element at Studio 54 that was going on there. And it was amazing when I started to see hip hop start to take over studio on some nights, the way people wanted to learn some of the breakdancing moves and other things. And it was really, really interesting to see cultures start to merge, you know?
Definitely. Definitely. But you saw the duality of the movements. Right. I mean, even with disco, as it started to die down, you saw this thing is the next disco. Right. Yeah, I mean, like hip hop, this is the next movement. This is the next cultural dance, musical, you know what I mean, explosion.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring this photo up. Joe, thank you so much. By the way, Joe dug this photo up from his archives in a heartbeat for me, because we were talking about somebody very famous back in the days who was a dear to me, and I haven't seen her in ages. And God, would I love to give her a hug, because she was great back in the day. She used to always look out for me at the Roxy. Lady Blue was her name. Tell us about Lady Blue, Joe. Point out the photo, Joe.
Real quickly, and then Kaz can jump in. I didn't know who she was or what her role was back then.
Right.
I just heard her name.
Right.
She managed the Rocksteady crew for a minute, but as you know, as time went on, and I got to know her later on in the years, her and Michael Hallman had these jam nights or hip hop nights down at Club Negril.
Right.
And this is one of the nights that the Cold Crush Brothers came down to perform. Right. And that's Charlie Chase on the turntable with Tony Tone standing next to him. And Cool Lady Blue, as beautiful as she was back then, still beautiful today. But if you look at the crowd, and I had more pictures, the crowd was mostly Caucasian.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's when hip hop migrated downtown.
Right. Well, that was the power of what people like Lady Blue and other things were doing. I mean, being from the UK, she came here with Lil, I think Lily or something was her name, her partner, and they started to help integrate everything and merge the music scene into these other clubs. Club Negril, Roxy, what was it the Funhouse? You know, all these clubs. But you know, it was amazing when, you know, like you said, look at the crowd. It's all pretty much all white, right?
Guys, what do you got to say about Cool Lady Blue?
I mean, Blue was very cool back in the days. Blue was like a promoter for the punk clubs, you know, downtown. Like, she's the one that initiated that pilgrimage from the Bronx downtown to the so-called punk rock scene. Clubs like Negril, you know, the Peppermint Lounge and the Funhouse and Roxy and all those places. Yeah, Danceteria are all places that were, you know, we were privy to because of Blue. Right. You know what I mean? And the energy from punk rock kind of rivaled the energy of hip hop at that time. Punk rock was the alternative to the, you know, to the rock, and hip hop was the alternative to disco. Right. For the youth, this is the next generation coming in with their brand of music, and it's an offshoot of what already existed, but it's our version of it. I mean, so hip hop is our version of disco.
Right. Well, you know, man,
just like punk rock is their version of rock music.
That's right. Well said. Well said. And I like the word pilgrimage, because that's really what it was every week with these clubs. I mean, it was a giant pilgrimage to all these different clubs to learn about the culture, learn about the music, and it was an education. It was an education. You know,
it was an education on both sides, not only for us, but for the clubs and the crowd that we were merging with.
Right.
You know what I mean? Once they saw breakdancing and scratching and stuff like that, they immediately were, you know what I mean, were interested in the culture and you know, welcomed us into those clubs and into that energy.
Right. Well, I have to tell you,
we in turn learned about their, you know, their music and their movement as well. So it was a marriage, and it definitely was a good look.
It was, man. And, you know, there's so many, we can go down the list here of photos and people, but, you know, one that stands out. And if I correct me, Joe, I didn't have time to ask you this. I wanted to, but I'm pretty good when it comes to my hip hop history. This is a scene from Beat Street, right?
No, this is on the set of The Get Down.
Oh, okay.
Baz Luhrmann's Netflix series, The Get Down, that
Okay.
premiered a few years ago.
Ah,
He used my images as references to recreate scenes. So
ah,
this is on the set of the movie set of The Get Down,
okay.
and it was Baz Luhrmann who did all those other movies. His attempt to recreate the birth of hip hop in this Netflix series, that he used my images as references.
Okay.
And to be invited to this movie set during the filming,
Right.
and get paid was
Right.
just phenomenal. I mean,
Wow.
he even had a character in one of the episodes
Right.
based on me.
Right.
Kid walking around, big afro, camera around, hanging from his neck, and this, that, and
Right.
the other. And it was just amazing that, well, it was a humbling experience to be invited to a Hollywood movie set
Right.
and
Well,
have them use my images.
but this scene right here is pretty much what the scene, like you said, he used your images to recreate scenes.
Yeah.
And, I remember so many of these club scenes, like right here, where the crowds were just packed around in these tight spaces, just soaking up the atmosphere and the music every week. And I have to tell you, we lost Kaz. Hopefully he'll pop back on, but
Yeah.
we're gonna get down. Okay, here he is.
If you can go back a shot.
Okay, go back a shot. Yep, let's go back a shot.
That one right there. So this is in Roseland Ballroom.
Wow.
I mean, Roseland Ballroom, Frank Sinatra performed there.
Yeah, man.
Duke Ellington, I mean, everybody and their mother performed in this New York City iconic downtown ballroom.
Right.
And to have the Cold Crush Brothers, the Phyllis Ford, and everybody else perform there also is phenomenal. So this is a cipher, what we call a cipher, where you have hundreds of people just open up the space and let the B-boys do their thing.
Wow, man.
And,
look at this. We also have the honor of bringing on Grand Wizard Theodore, man.
Theodore, the inventor of the scratch.
G-Dub.
Okay,
What's good? What's good? Peace. I've been trying to figure this thing out, man.
It's okay.
But I finally figured it out.
All right. Well, let's take a second here because you got to say that again. Joe, tell us who Theodore is, man, and what he means.
Listen, I've been blessed to have grown up with again, these pioneers, these bricklayers of the culture that we love so much. Hip hop has grown so much; it has surpassed rock and roll, jazz. It has become the #1 genre of music in the world all over. And to call these guys Kaz and Wizard Theodore, family is just amazing. And Theodore is credited with starting, scratching. That zigga 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 that you hear today,
right.
Theodore started back in the 70s and, gets credit for it. And, Kaz and Theodore, they're brothers, 40 plus years, they were rivals back in the days, their groups.
Right.
But that was just for show because, when the show was done, after the battle was done between their groups, we were the best of friends after the battle. But, Theodore had one of the biggest groups, just like Kaz had one of the biggest groups, and they were one of the biggest rivals back then.
Let's have Grandmaster Grand Wizard Theodore, and Grandmaster Kaz. First of all, it's an honor to have you guys here. Like I said, having grown up working in the clubs and being around the scene for many years at Roxy and stuff on Friday nights. It's great having you here, man. But tell us from your perspective about that scene, because Joe was just talking about the battles and between DJs and break and the Rocksteady crew and other crews. Grand Wizard Theodore, talk about that a bit, that scene with the battles and everything.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm just like very, very happy to be a part of something that's bigger than I am, And I figure, the battles and all that stuff, it only makes you better, to be competitive. You know, it only makes you better. I think that if we didn't have all the battles and the rivalries back in the days, I think that a lot of these groups wouldn't be as polished as they are polished today. You know, like being on the stage and going to the stores and renting tuxedos and getting leather clothing and getting the spikes and the headbands and getting their hair braided and all of that stuff and just taking our stage show to the next level as far as like dance routines and harmonizing and 5 MCs with 5 mics on the stage and stuff like that, and having the DJ and the MCs coincide with each other. So I think it's a beautiful thing to have rivalries because it only made us better at our craft. It only made us better because the groups, we spent like every day together. It's not like we got together when it was time to do a show. We spent time with each other. We spent time at each other's houses. We played basketball. We played baseball. We laughed together. We cried together. I mean, we were like brothers, you know?
Yeah. You know, the one thing, you know, about that was that, and I sensed it from the days, was everybody would come into the clubs every week or wherever they were going, and they were always trying to bring something new to, whether it was the moves, whether it was the music, whether it was you scratching. There was always something going on where something new, a new technique or a new style to be able to implement to show off the skills. And I have to tell you guys, all of you had mad skills, and it was wild and exciting and educational and all that, to watch it all evolve in front of my eyes as somebody who was an observer in many ways. Even though I was around it so much, I was an observer. I wasn't, you know, part of any group or anything, but it was amazing to be in the scene, you know. And Kaz and Theodore, you know, right now, today.
What's up, Kaz?
And you too.
What up, Theo?
Talk to me. I love it. Talk to me. Talk to us, our audience, a little about right now, just for a couple of minutes, about what you feel about like hip hop and rap and everything these days, what it's evolved into. What are your feelings about that?
Well,
for me, yeah, you can go first, Kaz. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, plain and simply, hip hop has evolved commercially into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay, like Joe said earlier, hip hop has moved past every other genre of music as far as popularity and as far as you know, the dollar as the most popular music in the world right now. So in that sense, it's a great thing. All the commerciality, the movies, the videos, everything that has taken hip hop from just, you know, a neighborhood kind of thing to a global experience.
I want to give. Go ahead, Kaz, please. I'm so sorry.
No, I just think it's a testament not only to us as individuals, but to the movement of hip hop itself.
Right.
You know what I mean? The power. It just shows you the power of the movement, the power of the unity, the power of the brotherhood that we had at the foundation of hip hop that created that groundwork or that blueprint for hip hop to grow to the extremes that it has today.
Right. Well, I want to give everybody a small taste. So check this out. I found this clip. Joe, you know me by now, right?
Oh, shit.
Oh, boy. No. It's all good. It's all good. But we are going to bring this up right here and check this out. I'm going to mute.
Oh, that's a Casino Maria, I think. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't see nothing.
Oh my gosh, I think that's a Casino Maria. Oh man.
Oh, that's nasty.
Incredible.
Why can't I see that?
Kaz, they're showing the show that we did at Casita Maria.
Okay, I can't see it.
Yeah. But that was a production that Kaz, Theodore, myself, and a few other people, the Tats crew, shout out to the Tats crew, were part of a production that was put together at Casita Maria here in the Bronx, and it incorporated a lot of our photos, Kaz's rhymes, and his talks, and Theodore's music, and it was just a phenomenal production that we had even talked about going on the road with it.
Yeah, you know what was brilliant about that? You know what was brilliant about that? And I'm going to bring this up right away again so I can show off Legs' moves here in a still, because that's my boy, man. I used to love watching him, man. I tell you, the guy is like, he's an amazing athlete and dancer, because to this day, to be able to do what he does with Red Bull events and many other things, I mean, the guy's, his knees and his arms, he really conditions himself well. He takes care of himself really well. By the way, this is Crazy Legs from the Rocksteady crew. Richard Colon, as many people, don't know. Oh, okay. Did I break the rule?
Richie!
No government names allowed.
No government names. That's a cool pic. That's a cool pic right there.
This picture is, I got to spend the day with Crazy Legs, and we went to different areas in the Bronx, and that was actually at his school that he went to, and it was really nice spending the day with him, just going to different sites in the Bronx. And you got to understand something. Crazy Legs is much younger than myself and Theodore and Grandmaster Kaz. So, even though our paths crossed many times, in the 70s and 80s, he was, younger, doing his own thing with b-boying and things of that nature. But, as we got older, we got closer and stuff. But,
well, that's one of the things that I want to speak to you about, and you guys too, Grand Wizard Theodore and Grandmaster Kaz, is the evolution of things in hip hop and other things. What I love about Legs so much, and I've watched him, I've really paid attention to everything he's been doing over a decade now. Last time I ran into him was in a supermarket about 15 years ago. But anyway, Legs, what he's done is he gives back. He gives back all the time to Puerto Rico, to the people, to his fans, to his family, everybody. He gives back. He created this amazing thing, Puerto Rocksteady. And he does this thing, of course, right now there's a pandemic going on, but for years he's been supporting Puerto Rico and the people of Puerto Rico and so much about it. Talk to me about that, Joe, about the giving back element.
That's just a testament of who Crazy Legs is.
Right.
I mean, and we're all, Theodore and Kaz, we're all cut from the same cloth.
Right.
Legs has been doing the Rocksteady anniversary for 20 plus 30 years.
Wow.
And just wanted to do something different and take it to the next level. Mm-hmm. And he started the Puerto Rocksteady music festival in Puerto Rico to give back to the people, to the youth of Puerto Rico. Right. Kaz and I have been out there several times. Theodore, hasn't had the chance to go out there yet, but it's just, it's an amazing event. It got canceled this year because of the pandemic, but it's an amazing event that it's only been about 4 or 5 years that it's been happening, but it's an amazing event that he's very passionate about. After Hurricane Maria, Legs and I were in Amsterdam.
Okay. When
Hurricane Maria hit, and the first thing he did was worry about his family, and I worried about my mother, who was over there at the time. Right. And he called up Red Bull and made things happen, and was one of the first hip hop celebrities to get out to Puerto Rico when Puerto Rico was closed down to bring just sustainable, water and light and all kinds of things that, the Puerto Rican people needed.
Oh no, I remember it. It really was amazing. I tell you, man, he is a great guy. I was watching his live streams on Instagram through Red Bull and other things. Love that Red Bull has, given him so much. Not given him, he's helped them a lot, but they've merged their resources, I should say, together for one thing, to help the people of Puerto Rico. And that was great, because I know he was heavily involved in one main thing, beyond others, but one main thing was making sure that when the hurricane hit, that right soon afterwards, people were getting clean water through this new
potable water. Yes, that was so important.
Exactly.
So important. And lighting, but that just goes back to the culture of hip hop.
Yeah.
The culture as a whole is about, one another.
Right.
Peace, unity, knowledge, and having fun, and helping your brothers and sisters out. Right. And Legs has done a phenomenal and continues to do a phenomenal job. Right. Kaz does it, with the Tools of War Park Jams.
Right.
With Theodore, they give enormous amount of time to recreate jams that went on in the 70s and 80s with these Tools of War Park Jams. And, they contribute their time to Theodore teaches, down at the Scratch Academy, and it's just, that's how we are.
Okay.
That's how the cloth that we were cut from, of this culture of hip hop. It's about giving back.
You know what we're gonna have to do one day in the future, Grand Wizard Theodore and Kaz and Joe and everybody else, is we're gonna have to have I can get 10 people on the screen on this platform I use called StreamYard. StreamYard is my platform of choice to do my live streams. I stream the Spin It Social Hour to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We reach a lot of people every week. I wanted to tell this story well, but as I'm telling this story, we all get help. I want to bring on my helper to acknowledge him. Let me bring on my helper from the East Village, Jonathan Borstein. Jonathan, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Everything's fine.
Jonathan.
Jonathan's been putting all the comments on the screen throughout the show. He's been putting up all the tickers to make sure that Legs and Joe and everybody else, people know where to find them on Instagram and everything. Grand Wizard Theodore and Kaz, I'm so sorry that I didn't have banners ready, tickers for you guys on whatever platforms you're on, but do you want to tell anybody how people can follow you guys?
I'm pretty active on social media. I on Instagram, I'm the real Grandmaster Kaz. Kaz Brown on Facebook, Grandmaster Kaz on Twitter. So yeah, you pretty much can find me out there.
Okay, check out Grandmaster Kaz, everybody. Make sure you follow him, because you've got a historian here on hip hop and the culture and everything else. Now you know about, if you didn't. And Grand Wizard Theodore, how can anybody find you on social media?
Well, I'm easy to find. It's not so many Theodores, Grand Wizard Theodore, so I'm pretty much easy to find. But on IG. On IG, it's the real Grand Wizard Theodore on Instagram, and on Facebook, you just Theodore Livingston or Grand Wizard Theodore. Once you punch my name into the computer, everything pops up. My blood type, what kind of foods I like, the color of my eyes, how long my hair is. It's pretty much everything is out there, man. I'm an open book.
Well, Jonathan, I just wanted to bring you on for a second and let you know, that we appreciate your help as the co-producer and doing all you do. The show wouldn't be possible without you. And it's great having you as my partner in crime. And I'm going to get back to wrapping things up here, but I didn't want to pass up on my great co-producer here. Okay.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
Peace.
All right. So one of the things I want to do as we wrap up here, I want to move on a little here, though. Let me scoot ahead on some photos, because I want to acknowledge Melly Mel, and I want to also. What's up?
I said no doubt.
No doubt. And
Yep.
then, you know, so many other photos.
Yeah.
So many other photos and people. Joe, why don't you roll through some of the names since you are the photographer?
This is the father of hip hop.
Yep.
Kool Herc
That's
at
right.
Cedar Playground.
That's
right
right.
down the block from 1520 Cedric Avenue. The urban legend has it that, you know, hip hop was born there on August 11th, 1973.
Yep.
I wasn't there. I was too young. But Kool Herc is known as the father of hip hop. And this was a photo shoot we did many, many years ago.
That's why I picked this photo out, because it was right near the playground, which is supposed to be very, very historic. So
Yep.
not supposed to be, it is. So I wanted to acknowledge some of the greats.
This is, I mean, you can't, I mean, this is Rakim.
Yep.
Allah God. You know,
Yep.
Rakim acknowledges, you know, the two gentlemen that are here with us today.
Yep.
And Rakim, you know, is just about to go and perform. And I just caught that special moment of him before going on the stage.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's how I approach my photography. You know, you got to respect the subject. I've always subscribed to the theory of, you know, you respect the people that you're shooting and you'll get pictures. That's my dear, dear, dear brother, JDL, Kaz's tag team partner of the Notorious 2 pre-Cold Crush Brothers. And that's JDL holding up a picture of him that I took. Some other pioneers.
That's right.
Red Alert.
We got to acknowledge them, man.
Funk Master Flex, who came on later on. But Sal Abatello, another pioneer that gave so many opportunities to so many pioneers with his club, The Fever, in the Bronx.
The Fever.
And even before that, his father owned a club called Pepper and Salt that gave jazz musicians and other musicians the opportunity to perform. This past Tuesday, I was up in Philly shooting Sun Ra, the jazz musician's house.
Right.
And Marshall Wilson, one of the musicians from his group, mentioned Pepper and Salt Lounge that Sal's father owned. But Sal is an unbelievable, one of those heroes of hip hop that has given so many people the platform. The Cold Crush Brothers performed at the Fever and so many other groups.
And I have to tell you, man, I'm going to give a shout out here to the guy on the left, Cool DJ Red Alert, because let me tell you something. Red Alert was one of the nicest guys.
Still is.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, but having been around him for about a good 5+ years back in the days, every Friday night and other things. And I got to tell you, man, I would love to see. I haven't seen him in ages. What a great guy, man. He was so kind and so much fun to be around, you know? And then, of course, you got to acknowledge Bam.
The Godfather. The Godfather, the father. You know, Bam is credited with taking the elements and putting them under the umbrella of what we call hip hop today.
That's right.
You know, it's just, you know, hip hop is just music is just one part of when I talk about hip hop.
Yep.
And, you know, Bam is, you know, the founder of the Zulu Nation.
Yep.
You know, here you have the holy trinity of the Bronx River projects, you know, Red Alert, Jazzy J, and Bambaataa, you know, and, you know, Bam is, you know, the founder of Zulu Nation and credited with, if you go back one, that's a shot of Theodore's long locks, but, you know, playing. And, you know, this was you know, you have to respect, it's like photography. You can't immerse yourself in photography and not know the roots of photography.
Right.
So, you know, it's just like hip hop. You know, I speak to my son today who knows nothing about Kool Herc, Bambaataa, the Cold Crush Brothers, this, that, and the other, but he can repeat Young Jeezy, Young Weezy, and this, that, and the other. But, you know, it's like if you love something so much, you got to know the roots of it. And, you know, that's how I was raised.
So one of the things I want to do, because we're gonna have to bring this to an end very soon. But one of the things I want to do in closing is do the most important thing. And I'm sure Grand Wizard Theodore and Grandmaster Kaz would acknowledge this and want to do this too. Joe, I want to say personally, thank you for what you did on 9/11. And I want to thank you for your service, for what you did for our country, and for working down there on that horrible day and afterwards, because we know that, you know, you've dealt with the toughest thing of all, having dealt with working down there and everything. And we just want you to know I do, and I'm sure everybody here supports you in knowing that we're always going to be behind you 100% to support you.
Stephen, don't make me cry.
No, I'm just telling you. I'm going to try not to, but I'm just going to. I want to acknowledge that you were an EMT. You were one of the heroes that worked on 9/11, and you know, God bless you. And we wanted to thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. I'm proud of my service. 27 years with the New York City Fire Department as an EMT.
That's right.
And you know, I've been retired now 2.5 years. I was just big advocate for right after 9/11 for our members and everybody else involved or lived in the area to register for, you know, health problems, because I knew 10, 15, 20 years later that, you know, people would be coming down with certain illnesses and stuff. And staunch advocate for that. And, you know, I'm a cancer survivor. I came down with liver and pancreatic cancer, and my two brothers here, my biggest supporters during that battle. But I didn't know I would become a patient, even though I was advocating for all of these bills up in Washington, D.C. and things of that to happen. So I'm grateful to WTC, the World Trade Center Monitoring Program, and the Victim Compensation Act. And, you know, I'm here. I've been
I'm glad.
in remission over a year.
No doubt.
I'm so, you know, happy and thankful that you're doing well. I have a dear friend that's also a survivor of this, and it's every day I wake up and I'm just thankful that he's healthy, that he's doing well, that you're doing well. But I wanted to end this show on a note that it should be ended on, which is paying tribute to your family here, and you know, two of the senior members of your family. And just let them know that we're thankful that Joe Conzo is here with us, because you are a Bronx legend, and it's just been wonderful having you on. And Grandmaster Kaz and Grand Wizard Theodore, I wanted to say thank you for your time and for your knowledge and for everything you've done to educate people about hip hop and keep people in the know about the real deal with hip hop. And thank you for being here. So I'm going to close out the show, but I'll if you guys stay on, I'll tell you where you can find everything. Folks, you've been watching the Spin It Social Hour with Joe Conzo Jr., and we've had special guests today with Grandmaster Kaz and Grand Wizard Theodore and David Gonzalez and Joe's dad. So I'm going to close this out. Guys, stay there. I'll be right back, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. All right, hold on. Joe, thank you. I'll be right back. Okay.
Sure.
Actually, let me give you the last word, Joe. What we, you know, in before I take you off the screen here, that would be very rude of me. Why don't I let you have the last word here in terms of everything that we've talked about today?
Listen, it's just I've had an amazing career. I still continue to shoot, not as much as I did pre-cancer. But I still shoot. Photography has been my escape from, you know, the urban decay during those years in the Bronx. But it's been my, you know, love and passion. And, you know, whenever I speak to kids in schools and or go up to Cornell University and speak, you know, I just give so much credit to photography and the arts, and you know, it's just been wonderful. And again, this kid here from the South Bronx, I've been to Bulgaria. How fucking cool is that? I've been to Asia, Japan, you know, you name it, just showing off my photography, not knowing that. And that to me has been priceless. And thank you thank you, Stefan, for all that you do, highlighting different photographers. And I'm so proud to, or humbled to be in your long list of photographers that you've had on. And thank you to everybody that's joined in and watched on this Saturday morning.
Yep. No, I wanted to tell as much of the story as possible. We went over today, but that happens when there's great storytelling with so much history as you. Edwin stayed the whole time. Proud to be your friend and colleague, Joe.
Thank you, Edwin.
Thank you for being a prior guest. Thank you for being a great friend. And that photo in the promo card is of Joe is Edwin's photo. By the way, everybody should know that. So I'm going to close everything out. So why don't you hold on, Joe, and I'll be right back. Okay. All right.
Cool.
Okay. So, folks, you've been watching another great episode of the Spin It Social Hour. Thank you for being here. I wanted to let you know about next week's guest right off the bat. And next week's guest is Rick Friedman. I can't wait to have Rick on. He is an amazing photographer, one of the top authorities on lighting. He's been around for many, many years, and he's a legend, in my opinion. He is just wow. So I'm thankful to have Rick on next week. Find him at Rick Friedman Pics. Come join us next Saturday, November 28th at 10 a.m., even though you may have had a bit too much turkey. And I hope that everybody is going to social distance. And make sure, please, folks, that you listen to the experts right now. We can't afford to have people gathering in big gatherings right now. Do it. Have Thanksgiving in July, like somebody said the other day. But please take care of each other. Stay healthy, and please wear your masks. I just got an incredible new mask here. Look how beautiful this is. I got this great mask from Carlton Jones, a great, great designer. And I'm going to tell you all about him next week. We're running very long here, but I wanted to mention him. Carlton, I got the mask. Next week, I'm going to have a banner and ticker ready for you. I'm going to tell everybody about these beautiful masks that you make. And I should have had that ready. I'm sorry. It was a crazy week, and I just got it yesterday. But it's beautiful. I love my mask from Carlton, and I will be telling you all about it and how you can get such beautiful masks to make sure that you take care of yourselves as well. So thank you for being here, everybody, for the Spin It Social Hour. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to go with the crew back here and say goodbye and take care and have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and see you next Saturday with Rick Friedman. Take care, everybody.